Hello again. Now, the City of Cape Town is doing a feasibility study on how rail can be managed at municipal level. The first report is due in September. While the city has been given the go-ahead to conduct this research, the Transport Minister, Fikile Mbalula, will have the final say. Let's discuss what this could mean if things changed with Mateta Mukonyama from the CSIR. Good afternoon, sir, and thank you very much for your time. Quite interesting that like a few of other initiatives by the City of Cape Town, they are now looking at localizing the rail, the management of the railway system in Cape Town. Is that the way to go?
Braden, good afternoon. Part of the work that we're doing at the CSIR is to actually look at the rationalization of transport functions across the three spheres of government. So it's an ongoing conversation, not just in Cape Town, it's really across the whole country. In Gauteng, a similar conversation is taking place. It's just that for some reason in the city of Cape Town, it has attracted, some attention more than, in other parts of the country. But it is something that's a conversation that has been ongoing for some time. And it's something that we absolutely a conversation that we must have, because it's really about how to optimize on the resources that we have and make sure that we serve, communities better, going forward.
Yes, I think that last part is very critical, the serving the commuters and the communities better in terms of the railway system, because ordinarily it should be the cheapest, the safest mode of transport for millions of South Africans.
Yes. Well, it is cheapest because it is highly subsidized, not because it's inherently cheap. It is, heavily, subsidized. And, one of the lessons that we actually need to learn about this process is that it shouldn't be rushed. PRASA, part of the problem that PRASA has is because the formation of PRASA around 2008, 2009, was relatively rushed. So the separation from Transnet, the creation of this whole big, organization, it was rushed. And some of the problems that they have, for example, lack of capacity to maintain certain things, they were in Transnet, but they had to acquire them as part of PRASA, and many other things. The problems that we see now, property, just knowing who owns what in the infrastructure, payment mechanisms, the tariffs, the access tariffs, all of that hasn't been sorted out till today. And if we rush this thing, then we're going to create more problems. So we need to use, existing mechanisms as far as possible to help, implement better services, as opposed to having this big bang approach to trying to solve problems.
Yeah. So you say the conversations or the discussions have been going on for quite some time, and you at CSIR as a research unit, you've been trying to look at this picture. I'm just going to ask the question that says, would the decentralization post the PRASA years be the route to go? What's the sense that these conversations are creating? What's the kind of sentiments and concerns that you are picking up?
Well, it may be more feasible for PRASA to be decentralized, into regions. So you have the Western Cape region, the KwaZulu-Natal region, Gauteng region, and create an accountable, entity within the region itself. There's a possibility that the city could be a contracting, authority to that regional structure, such that they are accountable to a contract. You can breach, and then there will be consequences to breaching that contract. I do not see Cape Town owning the infrastructure of rail anytime soon. I don't see them operating those services. The most feasible option is that of having some oversight through some kind of a contracting arrangement. But even that will take quite a bit of effort, because there has to be labor relations, conversation that has to take place. The PRASA itself would have to be dismantled for it to be able to, have that kind of a structure. And that's not going to be easy anytime soon. Like I'm saying, we need to try to use existing mechanisms as far as possible to resolve the problems that we have, and then gradually be able to implement, some of these solutions, for the longer term.
Yeah, and you said because it must not be rushed, would that mean it's going to take a long time for us to get to some solution of sorts in terms of the research that's being done and the conversations? I'm asking this because currently you look at the state of the railway network in South Africa, especially in urban areas, your metro rails, and you look at the lines from townships, the main line in Cape Town, you look at the lines here from Soweto coming from the western side of Johannesburg into the Joburg CBD. I mean, they leave much to be desired. I mean, how much sooner could such a change happen?
It don't take a short period of time. This is a massive exercise. September is too soon to get anything of substance. In fact, if you look at the request itself, what the city is proposing is very vague. They talk about a rail function. What is a rail function? So they need to unpack that a lot more. And we also need to be dealing with causes, go deeper and understand why things are happening the way they are happening before we come up with solutions. It could be, for example, at depot level, you need to just solve the procurement issues there so that when you're ordering parts for, to improve reliability of services, the streamlined supply chain, process there. There are many ways in which you can start, resolving this, but you have to look at the causes of the issues that you have. Things like, the human settlements, the 8,000 or so sheikhs that have invaded the railway reserves. It's a problem, it's a failure of all the three spheres of government. So they need to work together as national, provincial, and local sphere to resolve that problem. It's not a PRASA problem, it's the failure of the entire government. So there are things that need to be done early on to help resolve issues. The things of restructuring PRASA, we've had this conversation in the 2000s. I mean, till now, we're suffering from rushing things and not doing things properly. So it's a gradual process. Let's build on proper foundations.
Yeah, we South Africans, sometimes we like to compare ourselves with other jurisdictions. We say, but it's been done here, it's been done there. Where else could we borrow from? I'm just recalling now, as you were talking there, Dr. Mukonyama, that in neighboring Mozambique, they also have their national railway system called CFM, Caminhos de Ferro de Moçambique, and they've got a southern CFM, a central CFM, and a northern CFM, and those are managed according to those three regions in the country. Are we going to be borrowing from typical middle-income countries like South Africa for some solutions, or are we going to have to come up with our own?
We definitely have to come up with our own solutions because they probably were trying to solve a specific problem when they came up with whatever structure they came up with. In South Africa, railways were heavily centralized. I mean, even the constitution of the then National Party had rail in it, and they had clauses about how to deal with rail. Post-94, the 1996 constitution did away with that. The policy that has just come out is trying to revive and elevate the rail as a strategic asset. So the issues of labor, you cannot just step over them. You need to deal with them. How are you going to deal with the thousands of people employed by PRASA when you restructure? You cannot just do away with it. You cannot wish it away. You cannot fire PRASA, with the current arrangements that we have. Of course, you can build a whole new railway service like Gauteng did with the Gautrain service, but you cannot do away with what we have. So the best we can do is to say, how do we optimize? How do we use what we have better? How do we come to a consensus with labor to make sure that we are productive, as much as productive as we can? How can we use the resources that we have more productively going forward in the interest of service delivery?
Thank you very much for your time and insights around this very important issue of how our railway network should be managed going forward. And that's Dr. Mateta Mukonyama from the CSIR. While the angle into the story was about Cape Town, he's pointed out very clearly that conversations have been going on across the board, across the country around these issues. And September, as Cape Town says, they'll come up with some suggestions in September. He believes it's too soon. This matter cannot be rushed for the various reasons he's given.